Do-do-do-do.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Hello, day 3 in the new studio.
Who wouldn't want to eat a sandwich made up of 2 pancakes and a patty sausage in the middle with eggs and cheese?
Where is that coming from?
Huh.
Oh, I thought you were doing the McDonald's. Da 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 da.
No, but you didn't listen to any of the words I said after it. Huh?
No, I heard. I just wanted to. Actually, what I want is a sausage egg.
You know, McDonald's. Okay, so we eat McDonald's as a desperation move. And Saturday morning after our move, we didn't really have a lot of breakfast options, and the groceries were still at the old place because we'd moved faster than we expected. So I went to Carl's Jr. actually originally. I got there and they're like, "Oh, breakfast ended 15 minutes ago." I'm like, all right, fine. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go to McDonald's. They have all day breakfast now. So I go to McDonald's. I order a sausage biscuit and a bacon egg McMuffin, and they gave me 2 sausage.
Aww. You know,
a long story for a small display.
It's weird because I don't like most of McDonald's menu, but there's something about that sausage egg McMuffin.
It's the grease and the salt.
Yeah, it's the fat. Oh, delicious fat. But you know what? I don't like the Big Mac. I just don't like, other than the one, is it the quarter pounder where they use non-frozen ground beef or something? The rest of it I don't
remember which one that is. Quarter pounder with cheese, maybe? Is that right? No, I think quarter pounder is also frozen meat, but I don't like the Big Mac. I like the quarter pounder with cheese. That was always my favorite growing up.
And it's like, why do you have a bun in the middle? Just put a larger patty.
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickled onions on a sesame seed buns.
Buns?
Well, right. See, exactly. That's the problem.
Yeah.
There. Plus, it's just like you're adding to your carbs. And I saw Super Size Me about 10 years ago, and I'm so anti McDonald's after that. Now, I say that sheepishly admitting that I still go to Burger King. I still go to Wendy's. But for some reason, it really knocked McDonald's out of my head.
For me, it's just always
the fixer says the quarter pounder is the one with fresh meat.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Yeah, I like those. They're like the only burger I can eat at McDonald's because all of the other ones, like within 10 minutes of eating it, I get like not indigestion, but it's just
ennui, regret.
Yeah, like my body literally just tells me you shouldn't have eaten that. Like I suddenly feel like
hate
really
yourself.
I feel very gross,
self-loathing.
I don't know. I don't know how to medically describe it. My body just feels. Why did you eat that? There's no reason to eat that. You could have had anything else.
Because the patties, the super thin burger patties, they're barely even there. Like why bother? I think that's why I always like the quarter pounder.
Hey, I have a question for you if I have time for it before we go live.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a Twitter handle for the show?
Yes, Daily Tech News. It's the character limit on Twitter when you try to type in Tech News.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
News. Oh, there it is. Hey.
Yeah, it should pop up.
Awesome. Okay, good.
Daily Tech News. All right, yeah, let's start this show in a minute, shall we?
Yes.
DTNS begins.
It's not like Superman Begins. Oh wait, that was Batman Begins.
Yeah. Mary Poppins Returns. When do we get Mary Poppins Begins?
I want Mary Poppins went like angry on someone.
Well, she does that.
You see the dark side of Mary Poppins, but
he gets quite stern with the children. 30 seconds.
I'm talking all out ruler. Like smack.
Mary Poppins as a nun.
Oh, the flying nun Mary Poppins crossover.
Oh, crossover. Like Predator versus...
Yeah.
Well, come on. She already played a nun. She was Marina.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, September 26, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm the show's producer out on the fringes of LA County, Roger Chang.
Welcome back, Roger Chang. Sadly for us, Sarah Lane has the day off. She'll be back tomorrow, but we are very happy that Richard Gunther, host of Home On and co-host of Entertainment 2.0, is back. How's it going, Richard?
I am doing well. It is going well, and I am here in studio Annapolis, Maryland.
Ooh, Maryland, represent. We don't get Maryland too often. That's awesome. Yeah, it's been too long since we had you back on. I know CEDIA was a couple of weeks ago, but we've had some time to digest the news out of there. And later on, you're going to tell us a little bit about the trends regarding custom installation, convergence of the space, etc.
Absolutely, at the risk of getting typecast as the smart home guy.
Yeah, it could be worse. Could be like me, the dumb home guy. Yeah. All right, let's start with a few tech things you should know. WhatsApp co-founder Brian Acton told Forbes that Facebook's lawyers argued that exploring monetization for WhatsApp didn't violate an acquisition agreement that said the founders could leave Facebook with all their stock intact if Facebook introduced ads on WhatsApp. So Acton lost out on, I don't know, $850 million or so. Acton says during the conversations he had about it, Mark Zuckerberg said, "This is probably the last time you'll ever talk to me." Acton left Facebook in 2017. The other WhatsApp founder, Jan Koum, left earlier this year, and of course, yesterday the Instagram co-founders left. So a lot of Sturm und Drang around that going on. Nintendo told IGN that it will not delete your saved games immediately on letting your Switch Online subscription lapse. Thank goodness. Nintendo says if you resubscribe within 6 months, your saves will still be there. You can't access them while you're not subscribed, but they'll come back as soon as you renew. India's Supreme Court ruled 4-1 that the country's Aadhaar database is constitutional and valid. The bench said that the ID program does good things. It empowers marginalized members of society. They did not find that it violated privacy. They found that the defense mechanism against misuse were sufficient. However, the court did limit which entities can require the system to be used. This doesn't mean which entities could use the system, but which entities can say, to use our service, you have to use your Aadhaar ID. And basically, it's just welfare and income tax filing from the government. Anybody else, any private entity, pretty much, according to the court, cannot require you to use Aadhaar, although they could let you if they want to. Let's talk a little bit more about Oculus Connect going on. Facebook announced the Oculus Quest. It's a wireless VR headset shipping this spring for $399. That's the same price as the Oculus Rift, but the Rift tethers you. This one does not. The Quest is the final project of the prototype you probably heard referred to before as Santa Cruz. It has 6 degrees of freedom, hand motion, hand tracking, motion detection. That distinguishes it from the Oculus Go, which only has 3 degrees of freedom. The Oculus Quest has 1600 by 1440 resolution per eye, 1440 resolution per eye, 64 gigabytes of storage, built-in speakers. It's basically an Oculus Go you can stand up and move around with on. It also comes with 2 handheld controllers, very similar to the Rift's touch controllers. Has an RGB sensor that can stream what's happening outside the visor to you. It will not be able to play PC games made for the Rift natively, but Mark Zuckerberg said it should have about 50 titles available at launch, including Robo Recall, The Climb, and Moss. Oculus product manager Sean Liu announced Oculus Go updates to improve the look of the content in the Go for you Go users. Also, the ability to let you cast from your Oculus Go to mobile devices and eventually TVs. And they announced the launch of YouTube VR support, so you can get YouTube on your Oculus Go. Of course, the big announcement here is the Oculus Quest. Richard, how do you feel about this? Untethered is great, right? I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
No, absolutely. This is one of the big hurdles for these types of devices. And I think it's one of the reasons that the lower priced pop your phone in here and play alternatives have done fairly well. If you can get something with the power of Oculus and actually run that in an untethered fashion, I think that's a big thing. And the price point is not so bad either. I've been kind of disinterested in this space largely because I think that we're not quite there yet in terms of the technology and the pricing. And I also have a disadvantage, and I think this is something that you struggle with as well, where I don't actually have good depth perception. So a lot of this stuff is really just lost on me, and anything that attempts to simulate a 3D experience just gives me double vision. So that's kind of terrible.
Yeah, I mean that I don't it doesn't sound like it's quite that bad for me. I can sense the depth, but it's not as great. And I've got an Oculus Go. It's actually right up there. And I enjoy it when I put it on, but I never feel compelled to go back and put it on. I don't think 6 degrees of freedom would make a difference to me, but if you can afford the extra $200 and you're deciding between the Go and the Quest, I'd absolutely get the Quest, just because the ability to stand up and move around is, in my experience from using the Rift and the HTC Vive, a much more immersive experience than just sitting there and being able to turn your head from side to side.
One of the things that I worry about is that we've seen this technology evolve so much and so quickly over the past few years. I still worry about investing now if you're just getting into this, because it seems like we're not that far from getting a much more lightweight, ideal, and maybe less isolating experience for people to enjoy.
Yeah, in fact, Facebook had their chief futurist on stage talking about how augmented reality and virtual reality are going to merge. They are going to continue to converge, but that's not going to happen for several years. And so, yeah, if you're an early adopter who likes to play with this stuff, go for it. Obviously, if you want to buy for the long term, you certainly shouldn't have bought the Rift or the Vive because they're tethered, and now they're not. Now, and there's an option to convert your Vive, I suppose, but for the Oculus, you're out of luck. For the same amount of money, you can now get wireless, and that wireless is going to get better resolution next, and then it's going to get more of the mixed reality stuff for augmented reality. So I agree with you. I think that's a very good point. Sony says it will allow cross-platform play on Fortnite, something available on most other platforms. Wednesday, Sony Interactive Entertainment President John Codera said the first step will be an open beta beginning today, that's Wednesday, for Fortnite that will allow for cross-platform gameplay progression and commerce across PlayStation 4, Android, iOS, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows, and the Mac. So I guess we know who has more influence in the world today, Epic Games or Sony, because Sony blinked.
Yeah, and this headline could well have just been Sony finally shamed into making this open for other platforms.
Yeah, I don't disbelieve Sony when they said it was a complex business deal. They didn't quite use those words. They tried to obfuscate it more, but they were basically saying, look, we get to keep all the money when you buy something in the store through the PlayStation. So we don't want to lose that if we, let Xbox players come in and play or let you play your Sony account on a Switch. So I don't want to discount the complexity of that, of trying to preserve that revenue line for them. But obviously it was possible. And with enough pressure, they have made it work somehow for them.
Well, it's interesting in that being the top dog, you always tend to be a lot more skittish about anything that could potentially whittle away your revenue streams. Yeah. And when you're when you're second or third place, you got nothing else to lose. So it's like, full steam ahead. So it's a very interesting case from just a business perspective. You take the whole video game aspect out of it. It's like, when you're top, it's very much like you want to be the king of the hill, and you got to keep trying to knock back everyone else.
And that's the interesting thing here is apparently Sony isn't top dog. Epic is. because Sony did have to adapt something that I don't think they had any intention of adapting. Microsoft will let select testers try keyboard and mouse support for the Xbox One in the coming weeks. Most mouse and keyboards will work, although they have a special partnership with Razer to sell some hardware. Some of it will work with chroma lighting effects, so that's kind of nifty. Developers will have to turn it on per game. This is not something where you can plug in the Microsoft or the keyboard and mouse and just go to town on every game. Some developers may choose not to support keyboard and mouse for various reasons, competitive reasons, possibly just compatibility reasons, whatever. But developers that do want to allow it can now. Microsoft's going to talk more about its partnership with Razer during the Inside Xbox stream on November 10th, if you're interested in that hardware line. But you should be able to plug in pretty much any keyboard and mouse once this rolls out.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see just how well this works with other manufacturers' devices. One of the challenges that Microsoft has with this box is that it doesn't have Bluetooth on board, right? So you actually have to physically connect a keyboard or have a keyboard that uses their wireless technology, and those are few and far between. We have talked about this on Entertainment 2.0 when it was part of the Insider Ring news, and I think this is a great move. I just hope that we get broad device support for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by broad, you mean beyond just USB, right? Like, because that's what people want. They want wireless.
Yeah. And I don't know how they pull that off yet.
Yeah.
It definitely will make a lot of players happy who complain about playing cross-platform on Xbox with PC gamers who have very expensive high-end gaming mice and keyboards and constantly get their tushies handed back to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And frankly, that's one of their reasons for wanting a wired connection, so that there is zero chance of latency in that connection with your keyboard and your device.
Yeah. Google announced that Chrome 70 will add a switch to its UI. You can do this right now if you know how, but there's going to be a very obvious place in the settings to turn off that feature that automatically logs you into the Chrome browser when you log into Gmail or YouTube or any other Google service. Google, I think, is not getting enough credit by the people who are critical of this. And I'm not saying that they don't have a right to be critical. I think Google wanted to prevent one bad thing and caused another bad thing to happen. The bad thing they were trying to prevent is when you share a device, and I've run into this working on other people's rigs when I'm podcasting, you have to remember to log out of Chrome and Gmail and YouTube, so making it so you log in once, you log out once is very important. However, not making it my choice is always a bad move. Google will also update Chrome Sync to make it clear what data is being synced with your account, and Chrome 70 will also clear cookies on sign out, which before some of the Google cookies stuck around after sign out, again, to make it easier when you sign back in, but they're going to get rid of that now. They're going to say, forget it. Now we'll clear them all in the name of privacy.
Yeah, so this is Google, and Google is the king of data, right? So I have a hard time believing they didn't have the telemetry from their users to know how many people are actually using this login to Chrome feature. I didn't even start using it until the kind of mid this year. And once you start using it, it's amazing because you have completely separate environments with different favorites and different cookies, and they don't cross at all. It's like you have isolated sandboxes, and that's a wonderful feature when you're trying to manage different things with one browser. Even in testing, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think they realize that people don't want to be forced into doing this if they don't have to.
And the downside of this announcement is that Chrome 70 will still have this setting on by default. And again, my guess is the people listening to this show are not the majority. The majority of people don't even know this exists and probably will benefit it because they're not going to do testing. So maybe it should be on by default. I guess I can see an argument for that. I prefer to just force me to make a choice and make an informed choice. And I'm very glad they're giving me the option to turn it off because I'm like you, Richard. I don't want that on. But I do see why they were seeing a benefit for an average user there. Google Maps added collaboration tools now that will let you create a list of places and share with your friends so you can vote on a place to go. So if you're choosing a restaurant, you're choosing a bar, etc., movie theater, maybe even. Group members can veto selections and even add their own. So depending on your group of friends, this could be a very useful feature or end up with no decision ever being made. I guess it depends. But this seems to be a very popular feature ad. I've seen a lot of people very excited about this today.
I think this is great. I love things that allow you to collaborate geospatially. That's something that not a lot of platforms have the ability to support. And I remember 10 years ago using Google Maps to plan out events, activities, and places that people could go to for my wedding trip, which was a destination wedding. And even 10 years ago, it was great for that sort of stuff. So the ability to then allow that group to coordinate and collaborate over that information, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Do you remember the dodgeball service? I think it was even pre-app.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that was what it was premised on, was like, hey, folks, if we all want to meet up at the same place, how do we do that? We've got a web service for you. And of course, those guys went on to found Foursquare and Swarm and all of that. So It has definitely been something people have been wanting to use the internet for a long time, and interesting feature to add to Google Maps. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, don't forget to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. If you recall, a few years ago, we had Richard on and discussed on DTNS how the high-end custom installation smart home and the do-it-yourself smart home were starting to show some overlap. Today, that convergence is more obvious than ever. And I remember on that conversation, Richard, we talked about how in the early days of CNET, I did a series that showed smart homes being installed, and that was the only option. And then when last we talked, it was like, hey, but you can now go and buy these systems. Not all the systems work with each other, but some of them are pretty sophisticated, and even some custom features are starting to show up in these systems. CEDIA was a couple of weeks ago, and we got a lot of announcements in this space. What did we find out?
Yeah, so as you indicated, CEDIA is really an organization that serves the installer market, serves that custom high-end market. But over the years, we've seen more and more, I guess I would say, infiltration, if you will, of DIY products. And by that, I mean, for example, the Ring lock or the Nest thermostat or the Amazon Echo that you can just buy at your local store. So part of the reason for that is that those products have an awareness in the public now. And you have this situation, which is kind of unusual, where you had homeowners who are literally spending tens of thousands of dollars for high-end custom systems to be installed in their homes, having envy over their neighbor's $250 Nest thermostat.
Right. Home security systems is one that I recently had to dive back into the market for. And I was shocked. The Simply Safes and the Rings and such, so much cheaper than like an ADT or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a whole bunch of products out there that allow you to do this stuff yourself, and we're starting to see a little bit of like a gray market's the wrong term because that has negative connotations, but a middle ground, if you will, where customers who have the ability to see these less expensive products and don't need something that's all custom laid out for them or custom designed for them realize that they can buy the product, but they don't maybe necessarily want to deal with the wiring, or they don't know all the different pieces that they're going to need in their home.
That Wi-Fi stuff always confuses me. I just want somebody to do it for me.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, companies, even Amazon has a service like this now, but there are companies that are starting to really specialize for that consumer grade do it for me, so that you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but could instead just spend a little bit of money to get what you want out of this. And
kind of like Geek Squad on steroids, right?
Right. Yeah. Kind of like that. So, we have that convergence. And then the other thing that we have going on, which I think is really interesting, is this thing where the smaller companies is the wrong word, right? Because I mean, we have Apple, we have Amazon, we have Google, all in smart home now. But you have these companies that are catering directly to consumers now, really making a push in that larger space. So, you see companies like Google and Logitech and Ring on the show floor. Now, Ring, sure, they're also a big company, right? But they kind of pioneered the smart doorbell in terms of getting that major adoption for it and consumer awareness. So it's interesting to see that sort of integration. We're also seeing companies like Sonos that have historically really just been a consumer product come out with new products like the new amp they announced a couple of weeks ago, specifically intended to make life easier for integrators. So that's the one side. And then the other side is that these large companies that do this custom install work, like Control4, like Savant, have new capabilities that are intended to support some of these products. I saw an amazing remote control from Savant that actually allows you to control your Apple TV with Siri through their remote.
I just got the tvOS update yesterday, and one of the things it tells you in like, here's what's new, is we now have support for Siri use on these high-end custom remotes, exactly the kinds you're talking about. In fact, I'm pretty sure Savant was listed as an example.
Yeah, absolutely. They are in that list. So that's a really nice thing to see. We also have companies like Control4 that are just embracing these third-party products. They know their customers want them. And Control4 is going even further by leaving consumers with something of an IFTTT engine. It's not IFTTT, but it's similar to that, where you have the ability to kind of define some workflow so that you don't have to pay for somebody to come out and change when that light bulb comes on. Because you know what? It turns out the lifestyle in your house is a little bit different than it was when they first created your program. So
Yeah.
you can go and customize that stuff for yourself without having to spend extra money. That's a great thing. The other day, we just saw an article in CE Pro, which is a magazine that caters to the pro space, with how there's now a driver available by a third party that allows Crestron, another high-end proprietary system, to work with smart things. So this is a trend I think we're going to continue to see, and I think it's very interesting, and I think that it's ultimately going to make many more products available at both ends of the spectrum.
So, we used to think of custom installation meant I've got enough money to pay somebody to come in and rewire my house and make it all work. And DIY was I'm going to go down to the Best Buy and I'm going to buy some stuff and sit down for the afternoon and figure out how to make it all work. And Richard, I think you've done a great job of explaining how those lines are blurring. Are we still going to see this ecosystem more? This is what I want to finish on is okay, now I've got more options than ever based on my budget. I can find a solution, and some of it can even involve somebody coming to help me install it, and it won't break the bank. But how do I pick what nation I want to live in my smart home? Is it still, once I'm in, I'm going to be stuck there for a while?
Yeah, we still have this problem, I guess I would call it, where big companies are kind of trying to carve out their own space here. And this is true even with Google and Amazon and so on. And so my advice to anybody that wants to get into this is, if you're looking at Best Buy or Amazon or some retailer and you want to buy some products, buy products that say that they work with multiple ecosystems. If you have iOS devices, make sure it works with HomeKit. If you have Amazon Echoes or Google Home devices, make sure that it works with those as well. And there are many companies that are putting out products specifically to touch all of those major control areas.
Yeah, Sonos is one of them, where they want to work with multiple systems. Roku even recently announced they're adding Google Assistant support, which is an interesting play. And I didn't think of it as an interesting play into the smart home market, but it really is.
Absolutely, it is. Entertainment's becoming a much bigger part of smart home technology, particularly as you have stuff like a skill that you can use to, say, control your DVR or whatever from your cable service.
Well, thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. Keep ideas like this coming. We love these evergreen topics, even if there is not so much evergreen, but just sort of a chance to step back from the day-to-day press release grind and sort of get some perspective on a space like this. Thank you, Richard, for that. Submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Let's check in with Chris Christensen, who has some news about TripAdvisor.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. There's some big changes going on at TripAdvisor. Full disclosure, I worked there as an employee for 1.5 years and as a contractor for another 3 years, because they are changing the site to be a social network. Now, they've always had some integrations with Facebook, but the idea is that you can follow people on TripAdvisor. Probably the best description what they're trying to become is the Facebook for travel, where you come home from a trip and post all your pictures and your reviews and such there and get followed by your friends. I'm not sure that Facebook is not the Facebook for travel, but I'm in the beta program and we'll see how it works out. If anyone can pull that off, it seems like it's probably TripAdvisor, who is the most trafficked travel site in the world. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Yeah, he took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, isn't Facebook the Facebook for travel? But I do see the allure for them. TripAdvisor is kind of already doing that. A lot of times when I look up things on TripAdvisor, it's just people asking each other questions and talking about their recent trips and whatnot. So maybe it'll just make that smoother.
And it's my go-to if I have any travel questions.
Yeah, as long as they don't make it harder to find the answers, then I'm all for it. All right, let's check in with the mailbag. Rohan from Boston, longtime listener of DTNS, wrote in and said, after listening to show 3372 and the plethora of Amazon Echo announcements, I can think of only one word, IoT. It's actually an acronym, but we're not going to be picky. With this, I think Amazon is able to crack the IoT market, which Google has been unable to do, even though Google started trying it first, Rohan thinks. Moral of the story, companies should not try to get into a market announcing the name of the science field like IoT, ML, AI, or VR. Companies should launch products which use these concepts. These words, IoT, ML, AI, VR, should be used in internal meetings, not in end-user announcements. Amazon's on the right track, and Google needs to learn this from them, says Rohan. What do you think?
Here. No, I think that's dead on. I think, though, that Rohan may be perhaps conflating the information that we get as tech heads and that we hear in announcements at things like I/O versus what they're actually promoting to consumers. If you buy a Google Home, they're not talking about IoT and ML and AI, but the what you read in the press is. And I think that but the bottom line is, don't use industry jargon when you're talking to consumers. The best way to get consumer adoption is to speak to them in language that they understand.
Yeah. And while we're bringing up the Amazon announcements, I was one of the people who looked at the Amazon Auto and was like, why wouldn't I just do all this stuff with my phone? But you've explained this to me in an email. Explain the appeal of the Amazon Auto, because I think I get it now.
I really think this device is a game changer. They introduced a whole bunch of stuff, but right now, if you want some sort of automation or some sort of assistant in the car, you have to use your phone, as you were talking about. But that isn't always all that convenient. And sometimes you don't have the ability to talk to it automatically without having to press a button or maybe even pick up your phone, and you don't want to do that. So this puts microphones in your vehicle, works the way it would at home, gives you access to thousands and thousands of skills to play games, to get information, for navigation, all these things that are harder to just pull up instantaneously on your phone, particularly if you're not looking at it. And then you have that whole home automation tie-in where you can say, I'm home, and open the garage door, or, hey lady, turn off the lights as you're driving away. So I really think this is a Trojan horse and a big win to get for $50, a major piece of technology into a car that would otherwise cost a whole lot more if you were getting something installed.
Yeah. And I think what I was hung up on is, but I shouldn't need this. And I don't think this is the kind of product that will last forever. It now reminds me of the D-Link Air that I used to use on my Dell Latitude. It's an 802.11b wireless LAN adapter.
I totally have one of those in my closet.
You don't need this product anymore because Wi-Fi is built in. And Amazon Auto is the same thing. Eventually, this won't be a device you'll need to bridge the gap, one hopes, but you have explained why it's very helpful right now. So thank you for that.
And what do you have more of? Old cars or new cars on the road right now?
Yeah,
old cars.
Exactly. Specifically my 2002 Prius. Hey, thank you, Richard, for joining us. Really love getting your insight. Let's not make it so long until next time.
All right. That sounds like a good idea.
If people want to find more about what you got going on, where should they go?
So I write and podcast at the Digital Media Zone. It's thedigitalmediazone.com. And the main show that I typically promote is Home On. That's my DIY smart home show. And I am also going to be at the Smart Kitchen Summit next week. So I'm going to put in a plug for Mike's Kitchen Tech show, because that is a lot of fun. And I am going to be one of the discussion moderators there again this year.
Don't forget, folks, if you use code DTNS, you get a discount if you want to attend. That's October 8th and 9th in Seattle, the Smart Kitchen Summit, smartkitchensummit.com. Thanks to everybody who supports us on Patreon. It's so much better to support us directly. And we are up over last month right now, but we want to see how far up we can get. So keep the backing coming at patreon.com/DTNS. And don't forget, I'll be at a conference this weekend in Los Angeles, September 30th on Sunday at 1 p.m. I'll be doing a workshop on preparing content for your podcast at Outlier CS. That's OUTLIERCS.com. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
See if I can fit this back in its
slot.
I don't know what slot that is.
I have a bunch of Express cards that I can't use anymore because the laptop I bought it for no longer runs.
I have one that was actually an IR controller to be able to use your laptop to control your home entertainment system. How stupid is that?
I remember when Gateway was selling just a PC that sat next to this like 38-inch CRT, like this monstrous CRT that would take at least two guys, if not three, to like put it and install it in your home. And I used to think that thing would be awesome. Can you imagine playing video games on 34 inches?
Imagine the detail, the pixels, the polygons.
Let's see.
All right, what should we call this show, Roger?
We have the Epic Play on Sony.
The Epic Play on Sony, yeah. No, that works. That scans. I like it.
There's also Ocular Spectacular.
That's pretty good.
Oculus is within 6 degrees of heaven bacon.
Do we have any on the main topic?
Let's see. Don't DIY, DIM me. Do it for me. Or DIY.
DIFM?
So it's don't DIY, DIME. Do it for me.
What? Do it for me?
It's all the way at the bottom.
What does DIME stand for?
DI-me. Do it for me. DI me. Don't DIY. DI me.
Oh, yeah. There actually is an industry initialism for this DIFM.
Yeah, somebody used that. DIFM is greater than DIY.
Yeah, that one's good. Do it for me. Just build it into the house that I buy.
Well, and that's a big thing that is going to happen. So today, obviously, I don't know if you... Well, yeah, I think, in fact, did you post on Twitter about this, Tom? The Amazon is getting into houses, into...
No, it wasn't me.
Amazon is investing in a builder. And so you just know that those homes are going to come with Ring doorbells and any, cameras that are part of the Amazon ecosystem.
The Ring alarm system.
Echoes all over. Yeah.
I just want it so when they build these homes, it's easy to replace those devices, right? In the same way you can replace a wall switch.
I have to say, I'm having just moved. I am pleased with how easy it is I pulled the Nest out of my old house, and it was super simple. And they had a really simple Honeywell that had been in there when I moved in. I put that back on the wall, and it was a lot easier than you would think to do that. On the other hand, the Nest cameras that I have, the Home Away Assist isn't working. It keeps turning itself back on while I'm still home. And I think there's some kind of GPS location information that's stuck in a cache where it's saying, well, your phone is definitely not at home because you don't live there anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I haven't tracked down exactly how to clear that. So
that's interesting. Have you changed? And I know this this is really giving Google a lot of credit for integration. I don't know if they've gone this far yet, but have you changed your home location for Google yet?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a good question, though.
I just want new homes with conduit so I can run Cat 5, Cat 6, or whatever.
Here. Yeah,
So
seriously.
what are we calling this, by the way?
I like the Epic plan, Sony, or the do it for me. DIFM is greater than DIY.
Yeah, let's do the Epic play because DIFM greater than DIY kind of counts against my whole show. So let's not go there.
That's a good point. As clever as it may be. Like, no, don't do that. We could put a question mark at the end with the implication. The answer is no. No, I've taken good advantage of DIY solutions for smart home stuff during this move. And man, so much stuff is so much easier to set up, to tear down and reset back up than it used to be.
Oh, it was a huge hassle initially when this stuff came out. And I think that's one of the things that companies have learned, even companies with products already on the market, that now when you try and set devices like those up, they've tried to streamline that. What would I call that? It kind of a handshake process or provisioning process, because they know that that's so hard for consumers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for tech heads, it's like, oh yeah, so what? I have to get this number. I have to type it in. I have to put my Wi-Fi. It's like, no, and really, this is something that Apple got right from the beginning with HomeKit. And whether HomeKit is successful or not yet, it's put pressure on a lot of the other manufacturers, and I think that's good.
I have a Honeywell that was in this new house when we moved in that is Wi-Fi capable. I haven't hooked it up though, because I want to pull it out and put my Nest on. But part of me is like, well, maybe I should try it. But it's so old, which is funny. Like. Something that's Wi-Fi connected is old, but I looked up the features for it, and the features are you can set the temperature from an app. Like, okay,
wow, right? I mean, and maybe you can set your program on it, but
yeah, you can do the schedule. It's not going to be automatic. It won't learn from you like the Nest or the Echo Bee or any of those other cool ones.
The question becomes, is that app stale now? Are they still maintaining it? Is this something that's going to work with other devices?
Was my big hang up. I was like, well, hold on a minute. Like, who's updating this and how secure? I don't want somebody coming in hacking my thermostat.
Yeah, exactly.
I should have got a Nest. I just got a cheapo Honeywell.
I actually got the Ecobee.
Oh, hey, Amos.
Hey, how are you?
When did you pop in?
Right after the show ended, as promised.
This is awesome. I get to see you even though we're not recording tonight like we should be.
So you guys, tell the folks how you guys know each other.
We actually met up at a Buzz Out Loud meetup in South by Southwest. There to meet you, Tom.
That's about 8 years ago.
That's
right?
insane.
9 years ago now, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was 09, 10, whatever. Yeah. we stayed in touch on Twitter for years after that. Then when I moved to Texas, I was like, he chastised me for being so close to South by and not going. And the next year I was like, you know what? I got to go just to shut him up. And then I've been every year since then. We always hang out when I'm down there.
That's awesome. And you guys are doing a show together.
And we do a show together.
Let's talk about Thrones. A show where we recap pairs of episodes of Game of Thrones, and Richard's never seen it before, so we get his rough takes on what's going on. And me and Jenny Josephson, previous producer of this very podcast, we've seen it and read most of it, and we kind of have the inside line on it, and we try to keep Richard up to speed on the things that he missed, and he gives us new perspective on things we didn't really consider. And it's
that's great. I love that.
He's being really polite about that. It's more like they're trying to be nice about how little I'm actually catching as I'm watching the show.
Now, Amos, I know Jenny's read the books. Have you?
I've read. I'm on the 4th book, so I've read up to the first couple chapters of the 4th book, which means we're now passing my book knowledge in the show because we recorded through the middle of the 4th season, and we have the first about 3 seasons released. In fact, I was working on that before I took a break to watch the show, releasing the next episode.
That's cool. So cool.
And Roger, I thought I was completely stupid because I was looking on the internet on how to replace my POTS cables with Cat 5 when I moved in the house, only to find a video by friend of the show Ayaz Akhtar, who said go look at the cables and at the main base and see if they're already Cat 5. I look in there and they're already Cat 5, so I've switched over my entire house from POTS to Cat 5.
Yeah, no, oftentimes
it was pre-wired.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying. I looked under my house, and his house was built in 1936. So, no Cat 5. There's actually one Cat 5, and it's running along the dirt, and it snakes around the plumbing, and it goes from one end of the house to another end of the house that I don't use for the show. So it's kind of like, man, what I need is a long extension pole so I can, because this guy who ever lived here before drilled little access holes in the floorboards. I just need something so I can dip the line in and then reach across 500 feet and grab it and then pull it underneath.
Yeah, I the basement in this house was finished by the previous owner, who was a subcontractor himself, and there was no cable down here, and there's one cable in the room I'm in now, so I had to get a cable Ethernet adapter. I can't remember what those are called.
Oh, a Balun?
Go from the garage where everything's centralized down to here through the cable. So all my Ethernet down here is through that cable line because we don't have cable. We're cord cutters. And then I had to drill into the wall to run an Ethernet back to the switch that's the 4-port switch that's behind the TV in the living room down here for the Xbox, the Apple TV, and the PlayStation, because I try to keep everything as wired as possible, even though I'm on a Netgear Orbi system, so I've got pretty good Wi-Fi everywhere.
They just need to run 2 or 3 inch diameter, just conduit through the house when it's brand new. So some new technology that you need to get wired, you can just tie it to the old one and run it through, instead of trying to snake it, drill holes.
I'm dealing with that right now because I'm installing this security cameras through the exterior of the house. We've got Nest cameras inside. I'm putting a Samsung system outside, but I want to have the DVR inside, and there's no ports for me to go through for the VNC cables, so I'm having to drill holes through the exterior walls to get those. And
that's why wireless is so popular.
Yeah,
no, I don't have to drill.
Yeah, it's true.
But even if you have wireless, you got to route power to it. So
I want to give eBarch we have the smartest audience in the world award for the moment. He just saved me some research that I've been intending to do, and found this in the Nest documentation. The Nest app will automatically set your home's location when you first create an account. Sometimes it can be off by a bit and affect home away assist accuracy and timing. To fix this issue, you can manually set your home's location in the Nest app. So that's what I just did. I just went in and changed the location. We'll see if that works. Thank you,
All right, that's great.
Yeah, no, I know. This is awesome. eBarch just saved me a ton of time by finding that. I really appreciate that.
I love when the audience can answer your questions.
Yes.
Practically live even.
And hopefully maybe somebody else out there was having the same issue or something similar.
We had a non-programmable thermostat in the garage for the garage heater because I'm in Alaska, so you got to keep the garage warm. And
I can send you my garage. It's really warm.
The thermostat that was in the house was programmable. It was in a Honeywell old school programmable one. The one in the garage was like one of those little rheostat, just kind of turn and hope you're getting somewhere within.
Oh yeah, wow.
Where you want it. So when I installed the Ecobee, I took the Honeywell and put that one in the garage. So now I can actually dial in exactly where it needs to be. And the Ecobee with the little sensors throughout the house keeps everything else nice and toasty. So we don't have air conditioning up here, so just open a window. But
that's the one thing.
eBarch is like, I hope that helps. He's like, I'm still having issues on my end, even with the correct address. Hey man, it at least narrows it down. It gets me, I would have spent time finding that and trying that. So now I'm already ahead. I appreciate it.
I am kind of disappointed that the Nest address for home and the Google knowledge of where your home is aren't the same. I do hope at some point that they pull those together.
Yeah, of course, then it gets into privacy issues, right? Where they're like, these days, I think people are really cautious about integrating that because they're like, oh, but what if people get mad that we did that? We have to make sure we do it with permission and all of that. Especially because Nest was its own alphabet company previously, and it's only recently in the past year or so
part of Google again.
Yeah.
Right. And that's probably true. I bet a lot of consumers who own Nest don't necessarily think of it as a part of Google.
Necessarily.
Well, if you want to hear more puns, stay tuned on the live audio stream.
That's right, folks. We're wrapping up the video for now, but stick around if you're on Discord or listening to Good Day Internet. There's more to come.